Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to project management chapter. The subject is leadership and management. We are going to study project organizing, and in this lesson, our attention will be on the organizational structure and also the scheduling of tasks. In our last session, we studied project planning. We saw how and why it's important that there be in place a predetermined course of action on how the project should be carried on or be executed, be evaluated, and also be brought to closure. In this lesson, we'll study what we call project organizing or project organization, and it involves the development of an organizational chart or structure and the scheduling of tasks. Organizing is a function that has to be carried out before the execution of the project, and it facilitates the coordination and implementation of project activities. Its main reason is to create an environment that fosters interactions among the team members with the minimum amount of disruptions, minimum amount of overlaps, and less conflicts. And one of the most important decisions of project management is the form of organizational structure that will be used for the project. Organizational structure. It may be very important that an organizational structure be developed. Organizational structure. When we discuss organizing, then there has to be some structure that will do what? That will be used for the project. Because we know, candidates, each project has its unique characteristics. And we even discussed when we're looking at the characteristics of projects, we saw that uniqueness is one of the characteristics of projects. So each project has unique characteristics, and the design of an organizational structure should consider the organizational environment, should consider the project characteristics in which it will operate, and also the level of authority the project manager is given. And candidates, a project structure can take on various forms. All right, can take on various forms, and different forms of organizational structure come with the different disadvantages and disadvantages. But one of the main objectives of a structure is to reduce uncertainty. Okay? Reduce uncertainty. One of the objectives of an organizational structure is to reduce uncertainty and confusion. And to reduce confusion. To reduce uncertainty and also to reduce confusion that typically occurs at the project initiation phase. So, candidates, an organizational structure defines the relationships among members of project management and the relationships with the external environment. It defines the authorities by means of a graphical illustration called an organizational chart. And a properly designed project organizational chart is essential to project success. Why? Because it shows where each person is placed in the organization structure, and it is also drawn sometimes in a pyramid form, okay, where individuals located closer at the top of the pyramid have authority and responsibility than the individuals that are located below, okay, that are located below or at the bottom. And we can say it is also the relative locations of individuals on the organizational chart that specifies the working relationships and the connecting boxes that designate what we call formal supervision and lines of communication between the individuals. The pyramid. So you may have such kind of thing. This pyramid we are talking about. So candidates, this is a form of a chart, and we say that the individuals located closer to the top have more authority than those that are located at the bottom. Now, candidates, creating the project structure is just only a part of organizing the project. All right? Because it is the actual implementation and the application that takes the most effort. It's just a part of organizing the project. It's a part of organizing the project. So the project organizational chart establishes the formal relationships among the project manager, the project team members, the development organizations, the project beneficiaries, and other project stakeholders. And we've seen that it also facilitates the effective interaction and integration among all the major participants and active, and it also helps to achieve open and effective communication among the members. Like this chart will indicate that the members at the bottom report to the officer at the top. These two officers report to this one at the top. So it shows clear communication, channels of communication, how the individuals are to relate, the interactions, the integration of individuals. But it should be noted that a structure should not be designed to be too rigid or too loose. Why? Because the project organization purpose is to facilitate the interaction of people to achieve the project ultimate goal within the specified constraints of scope, schedule, budget, quality, cost, time, and so on. So the objective of designing a project is to provide a formal environment that project manager can use to influence team members to do their best in completing their assigned tasks and duties. It needs to be developed to do what? To develop, it needs to be developed so that it can enhance collaboration among the team members and so on. So that is organizational chart, and it's, I've said, it is just a part of organizing. There is another part of organizing which is known as scheduling. Scheduling of tasks. Scheduling of tasks. This is just a structure that shows how the members will relate to each other. But part of organizing is the scheduling or organizing candidates, project schedule management includes the processes required to manage the timely completion of a project. Project scheduling provides a detailed plan that represents how and when the project will deliver the products, the services, the results defined in the project scope, and also it serves as a tool for communication, for managing directors' expectations, and a basis for performance reporting. And the project management team selects a scheduling model such as a critical path or an agile approach. Then the project-specific data such as activities, planned dates, durations, resources, dependencies, constraints are entered into a scheduling tool to create a schedule model for the project. And there are several project schedule management processes. Schedule management processes. Schedule management processes, which you are going to list here on the board. Schedule management processes include plan schedule management, plan schedule management, planned schedule management. Now, candidates, the process of establishing the policies, the procedures, the documentation for planning, developing, managing, executing, and controlling the project. That's all about the plan schedule management. It is the process of establishing the policies, establishing the procedures, establishing the documentation for planning, documentation for managing, for executing, and also controlling the project schedule. And the key benefit of this process is that it provides guidance and direction on how the project schedule will be managed throughout the project. And the process is performed once, or it is performed at a predefined points in the project. Then the second process is the defining of activities. Defining activities. Defining activities. The process of, this is the process of identifying and documenting the specific actions to be performed in order to produce the product deliverables. So before undertaking a project, before the various steps are drawn, before coming up with say a network diagram, then there has to be definition of activities. The activities have to be listed down. What are the activities that are expected to be undertaken in the process of carrying out or in the process of building or developing the deliverables? You identify, you list down the activities. And the key benefit of identifying these activities is that it decomposes work packages into schedule activities that provide a basis for estimating, for scheduling, for executing, for monitoring, and also controlling the project work. And defining activities can be done throughout the project. All right, it can be done what? Can be done throughout the project. And the activity list includes the schedule activities required on the project and so on. So for projects that use, say, the various different techniques, the activity will be updated periodically as the project progresses. And the activity list candidates includes activity identifier and the scope of the work description for each activity, and that has to be done in sufficient detail to ensure that project team members understand what work is required to be completed. List all the activities. For example, if it is building a factory, the activities that will take place, like preparing the foundation of the building, we have purchasing of materials, there are different technicians that may be required on the building. We need the activities that are carried out by the architecture. We have the activities, carpenters, we have mason, there are people to do with the fittings. So there are various activities when carrying out a project like a building, okay? Because there are different types of projects, and there are activities that have to be defined. So defining activities involves listing down all the activities that will be undertaken in order to develop deliverables. Number 3, sequencing. Let me just say sequence activities. Sequence activities is a process of identifying and documenting relationships among the project activities. Sequence, if it's building a factory, you cannot have the raising of walls of a building before laying the foundation. There has to be sequence. You cannot do the roofing before you done the foundation. You cannot do the plastering before you raise the walls. The wiring cannot be done before the ceiling, if it's a building. So sequencing activities is just the process of identifying and documenting the relationships among the project activities. And the key benefit of sequencing activities is that it defines the logical sequence of work to obtain the greatest efficiency given all the project constraints. And candidates, every activity except the first and the last should be connected to at least one predecessor and at least one successor activity with an appropriate logical relationship. Okay? So you have, say, foundation. We have building of walls. We have ceiling. There is roofing. So you see, this is a sequence. Sequence. If roofing is the end and foundation is the beginning, then we're saying that the rest of the activities must have a successor and a predecessor. Okay? Every activity except the first and the last. The first and the last. Every activity except the first and the last should be connected to at least one predecessor and at least one successor activity. So sequencing can be performed by using project management software, or it can just be done manually, the way I had started doing here. This is a simple way to illustrate, but building can have many other activities other than the three that I've indicated here. There is fittings, there is plastering, there is painting, wiring, all right, plumbing, if you are putting up a building. So there are many activities. This is just for the sake of understanding and illustration, okay? So you can use a project management software to do the sequencing, or you can just do it manually. The sequencing process, the sequence activities candidates concentrates on converting the project activities from a list to a diagram. In the first instance, we had a list. We said you come up with a list. And sequencing helps you to develop a diagram from this list. All right? You develop a diagram from the list, and that acts as a first step to coming up with a diagram. Okay? You then come up with what we call a network diagram. A network diagram. Network diagram. A project schedule network diagram. Candidates is just a graphical representation of the logical relationships of the listed activities. So first of all, you draw all the activities, then you come up with a diagram showing the logical relationships of the activities. And those of you who went through the old syllabus, the syllabus before the 2021 review, you must have covered the topic network. Okay? Network in quantitative analysis, where students were taught how to develop a network diagram, project network diagram. So the fourth process number 4 is estimating activity durations. Estimate activity durations. Estimate activity durations. Now, this is the process of estimating the number of work periods needed to complete individual activities with estimated resources. The key benefit of this process is that it provides the amount of time each activity will take to complete. All right? Estimating activity durations provides the amount of time each activity will take, all right, to complete. The estimate activity durations candidates also uses information from the scope of work, the required resource types, the skills levels, the estimated resource quantities, the resource calendars, and so on. So after having a sequential logical flow of activities in sequencing of activities, the next step is to estimate activity durations. Estimate activity durations. Then number 5, develop a schedule. Develop schedule. Now, this is a process of coming up with activity sequence, durations, resource requirements, and also schedule constraints to create the project schedule model for project execution, monitoring, and control. The key benefit of developing the schedule is that it generates a schedule model that has planned dates for completing project activities. And the process is not a one-time process, but it is carried out throughout the project. And we can also say that it is an output of a schedule model that presents linked activities with planned dates, durations, milestones, and as well as resources. And at a minimum, candidates, the project schedule indicates a planned start date and a planned finish date for each activity. And if resource planning is done at an earlier stage, the project schedule remains preliminary until resource assignments have been confirmed and schedule starts and finish are then established. Then lastly, we have the control schedule. Control schedule. Control schedule. Now, this is the process of monitoring the status of the project to update the project schedule and manage changes to the schedule baseline. The key benefit of this process is that the schedule baseline is maintained throughout the project. We discussed baselines in our previous session, and it is on the basis of the baseline that the project is monitored. The evaluation or control is done based on a baseline. And the purpose is to maintain the baseline throughout the project. So work performance information includes information on how the project work is performing compared to the schedule baseline. Now, when comparing candidates, the schedule baseline and the actual performance, you may have variances. And variances in the start and finish dates and the durations can be calculated at the work package level and also the control account level. So candidates, all these processes take place before the execution of the project. All right? And that we see in a project life cycle, where we have the initiation of the project, moving on to the project planning and project organizing. So project planning and project organizing, which we have discussed in our today's lesson, precedes the execution of the project. And that is very important, so that it is on the basis of the project planning and the project organizing that a project is executed. It is on the basis of the plan and the organization that the project is monitored and also evaluated. So that is all we can say for now, candidates, in regard to project organizing. In this lesson, we've seen that in organizing a project may be necessary to come up with an organizational structure. In this lesson, I laid out various benefits of having an organizational structure when carrying out projects. We've also detailed here the schedule management processes, one of which is a plan schedule management. Number 2, defining activities. Number 3, sequencing of activities. Number 4, estimating activities durations. Number 5, developing schedules and controlling schedules, coming up with the controlling schedules. That effectively marks the end of our today's lesson. If you have any question, please feel free to write to us below this video. There is a comment section where you can post your questions, and all your questions will be answered. Bye-bye.